Okay, in this video we're going to look at full employment and policies to achieve full employment. So first of all, it's important that you can define it. So 4 to 5% unemployment, the lowest without causing inflation, and no cyclical unemployment in the economy. So when you do get a question on full employment, it's important that you're defining the goal before you start talking about it. In relation to that, there are 4 main policies. Really, look, don't need to know all 4 of these, but I'm going to go through all 4 of them. If I would just be focusing on developing an understanding of a couple of the key ones here. Probably policy 1 is the most important. So we talked about in class that last year they had the temporary skilled visa and put that money towards a Skilling Australians fund. And what they're doing this year is they're just putting an extra $250 million towards that. So they're increasing the amount allocated to that Skilling Australians fund that's designed to provide trainees and apprenticeships and things like that. They're also putting an extra $89 million into 40,000 transition to workplaces. And I'll talk about that in the next slide, but basically what that is to try and help people that are 15 to 21 at the most risk of being long-term unemployed into the workforce. So essentially that's providing mentoring and assistance for those people. It's a key policy here that I reckon is probably one of the, not easiest, but one of the clear things that you can talk about here is just putting money into people of that 15 to 21 age bracket that are most prone to being unemployed, and providing them with assistance, and I'll talk about that again in the next slide about what types of assistance they're providing. Other things they're doing, older Australians and their employers will be eligible for a $2,000 matched incentive for undertaking training. So what that means, if old people undertake training, both them and the workforce that provides that training for them will be given a $2,000 incentive or subsidy, and there's over 3,600 places for old people there. It's also funds being allocated toward providing mentoring for older Australians to start their own businesses. So older Australians that want to start their own businesses will be provided with mentoring and support to do that. Other policies, these are different policies, but the infrastructure spending will create 28,000 jobs. Again, probably not the one I'd talk about. And pensioners can get an extra $50 a fortnight without their pensions being cut. So they can earn an extra $50 a fortnight, which will encourage them to work more as well. But really what I'll be focusing on in this one is that the extra funding for the Skilled Australians Fund and the idea of the 40,000 transition to workplaces for young workers. So a little bit more about that. The transition to work is focused on building young people's confidence and skills to enter the workforce. So the sort of things they're going to be offering is practical skills that help these people to get a job. So a lot of these people are people that haven't graduated year 12, are more likely to be prone to being unemployed. Education and training, work experience placement, so trying to line them up with workplaces that will give them experience, job opportunities, connect with local community services as well. So really putting money into trying to connect these people with jobs in the future. Transition to work providers have experience working with disengaged and disadvantaged young people and have strong links with employers. So the idea is basically there's funds going towards these people that are working for the government to try and help these young people into the workforce. So their wages are part of the funds that are being allocated to that, and these people have contacts. They're going to try and help these 15 to 21-year-olds that are at risk of being long-term unemployed is essentially what they're doing. In terms of other policies, as I said, if you focus mainly on that first policy, that's fine. They're also putting money towards jobs in regional areas. So they're putting $200 million towards Better Regions Fund, which will help support jobs in regional areas. A lot of that money is going towards infrastructure, so that will create jobs with those infrastructure projects to try and help people in regional areas to find jobs. Also construction on the infrastructure on the Brisbane Inland Rail network as well. Another thing, the government's investing around $2.4 billion in research, science and technology to try and build a smarter economy. So the investment in research infrastructure is designed to make us at the forefront in relation to new research and development and ideas. So for example, they're looking at things like needle-free ways to deliver vaccinations and cervical cancer vaccines, because people don't like needles, they're painful, and the idea is that more people will then get those vaccinations because it's not a needle. And a lot of this stuff will help to create jobs. The investment will go to people will be able to find jobs in research and development as well. And the last thing, there's putting funds towards women participating in STEM, so science, technology, engineering and maths, trying to equip Australians with the skills they need by putting a lot of young people through these STEM programs. So a Women in Science ambassador will encourage girls' participation in STEM subjects, while the 10-year plan for women in science will set out a long-term strategy for increasing female involvement in STEM education and careers. So they're putting funds towards trying to find ways to try and combat the lack of females in these areas, sort of male-dominated fields, with the idea that more females will develop these skills and flourish in these sectors going forward, and therefore create more jobs in those industries. There's another sort of key policy that will help to create jobs and skills in the future. So finally, here's the question, sort of the big question you might get asked. So explain one policy from the 17-18 budget and another policy from the 18-19 budget that has been designed to boost skills, and explain how the success of this policy is likely to affect low inflation and economic growth. Okay, so you need one policy from each. From last year's budget, the main policy was the removal of the 457 visas, which were replaced by the temporary skilled visa. Employers who hire employees using this temporary skilled visa have to pay a levy, which will then go towards the Skilled Australians Fund. That's designed to improve skills for those in training and apprenticeships, which should help to create jobs, and the new skills should help to boost productivity, which should lead to less cost-push inflation, so we become more productive, which reduces cost-push inflation, which helps to lower prices and boost their international competitiveness as well. In 2018-2019, the government has gone further with that and provided an extra $250 million towards that Skilling Australians Fund, again to design to equip apprenticeships and trainees with skills for the future. In combination with that, they're offering 40,000 transition to workplaces for the most vulnerable 15 to 21-year-olds that have a lack of skills or sort of disengaged with employment. So an extra $89 million is going towards 40,000 transition to workplaces to help young youths, with the idea of that being that they work alongside with people that have contacts to try and get them into the workforce. This is another policy in itself, so older Australians are eligible for a $2,000 matched incentive for taking on training and development as well. So these policies help to boost the skills of both older and younger workers, which should lead to increased productivity, which would help to keep inflationary pressures down, and also boost growth as we become more productive and therefore competitive in the economy. Thank you.